Hello, welcome to my JavaScript course. I'm Alex Chadwick, and today we're having a look at if-else statements and loops. If you haven't watched my last tutorials, I would highly recommend you do so before starting this. At the end of this tutorial, we will be building a small project using the concepts we've learned, called FizzBuzz. An if-else statement is a concept in most programming languages that is able to execute a certain block of code if a condition is met, or an optional different block of code if said condition isn't met. We are required to use relational expressions along with logical and arithmetic expressions to be able to check whether the condition is met. But we can combine these expressions with arithmetic and logical expressions, as I've said previously. The syntax consists of the if keyword followed by a condition in between parentheses and a block of code to execute if the condition is met. The else code block is optional and is used to provide an alternative piece of code in case a condition is not met. You might notice I have lines of code in the example starting with 2 forward slashes. These lines are called comments, and whatever follows the forward slashes within that line will not be executed, and anything on a different line that is not a comment will be executed. So before we continue, what is a block of code? A block of code is just a piece of code surrounded by two curly braces. They are mostly used after statements, loops, or to define the body of a function. We will dive deeper into functions in another tutorial though, so don't worry if you don't understand this quite just yet. While loops are loops that will continuously run whilst a condition is met. It differs from the if statement because this can run more than once, whereas the if statement can only be run once. The syntax consists of the keyword while followed by the condition in between parentheses and followed by a block of code, which will be run as long as a condition is true. And you will usually have some kind of logic inside the while loop that will make the condition false at some point, otherwise you'll just end up with an infinite loop. For loops are similar to while loops, but with more expressions included in between parentheses. These are you've got an initialization expression where we can create a new variable, the condition, and the post expression, which is what happens to that variable we declared previously after each loop. We usually increment or decrement this value. And our first project will be a FizzBuzz game. We'll suggest creating a JS fiddle for this application to be able to save it in case you ever want to come back to it. So FizzBuzz is a game that consists of counting. But if whatever number you have to count is a multiple of 3, you must say fizz. If it's a multiple of 5, you must say buzz. And if it's a multiple of both, you must say FizzBuzz. If it's not a multiple of 3 or 5, then you just say the number. With this said, let's go to JS Fiddle and explore how we might achieve this. Right, here we are in JS Fiddle. As we saw in a previous tutorial, we've got our JavaScript code going in this pane on the bottom left. So the first thing we want to do is create a for loop. So for, and then we've got our initialization. So we make a new variable. I'm just going to call it I. I'm going to set it equal to 0. Then I'm going to say we want this to run while I is less than 10. Let's make it 100. And then after every loop, every iteration, we just want to make I equal I plus 1. But this syntax is a bit too long, so another way we could write this is just I plus equals 1 or I plus plus. And we're gonna make a new code block. And in here, we want to check whether I is a multiple of 3, or if it's a multiple of 5, or if it's a multiple of both. So if I, the modulus of 15 is equal to 0, so if I divided by 15 has a remainder of 0, then we want to console.log fizzbuzz. Else, we can put another if now. So if this is not true, it will check for this if. If I remainder of modulus 5 is equal to 0, then we want to console.log, log us, else if I modulus of 3 equals 0, we want to console.log fizz. I'm just gonna capitalize fizz and buzz. And if it's none of these, whoa, if it's none of these, we just want to console.log. If we run this, we can see it's a bit slow because it's JavaScript and it's not the fastest language. And JS Fiddle is also a bit slow. You can see that 0 will always be fizz buzz. 1, 2, instead of 3, we write fizz. 4, instead of 5, we write buzz. Instead of 6, we write fizz. And if we go over to 15 here, we can see it's fizz buzz because 15 is indeed a multiple of both 3 and 5. And as you can see, instead of displaying the numbers, it does display the correct string. So this is how we make fizzbuzz. If you liked this quick tutorial on if-else statements and a few of the loops we have in JavaScript, please hit like and subscribe. And next episode, we're going to be looking at some more JavaScript.